Hi, it's Anne here, and today's video is my first update for my No Pan Left Behind project for 2024. So how I'm doing this project is I'm picking 2 large palettes from my collection each month. Large being any palette that has more than, I think 15 or more shades is what I've picked. And it worked out perfectly that I had 24 of those, so that means 2 per month. And yeah, I've learned some things this month. This has been an interesting project. This is my first time doing an official No Pan Left Behind project. The 2 palettes that I worked on this past month, the first one is the Stone Cold Fox palette. So we'll talk about this one first. And this was interesting because I thought this was going to be easier than it ended up being. Maybe not easier, I mean there's a lot of shades, but easier to just play around and not really have any oh, that one's going to be a shadow that I'm not sure I'm going to how to use or whatever. The challenge that came up with this one is I did gravitate towards this center bit here, these really gray, where am I going here? These ones. The sort of grays in the middle. That's really where I kept gravitating towards. And then some of these shades over here, the more plummy shades. And it wasn't that I just didn't like the other shades. It's just, it's cold and gray. I'm wearing a lot of black and gray. So it just really worked with a lot of what I was wearing and how I was feeling with the way my looks were coming together. And it was, I think yesterday when I was I'm pretty sure I've used everything. And then I realized I did not use everything. I'm actually going to sketch over to the side. Oh, before I do that, I was going to show some looks eventually over here. I will put up some screenshots of the swatches of this palette. I think I forgot to do that in my intro. I think I meant to do that in my intro, was to put the swatches of the palettes in when I introduce them. So we'll put up the swatches. I'm pretty sure I have swatches of this palette that I've already done prior. I think I did swatches when I bought the palette. But yeah, I realized that it was yesterday or the day before. I was I've used everything, and I'm oh my gosh, I haven't used everything. I missed Corey Days, which is this shade right here, and somehow I missed, I think I did use this, but maybe I didn't. I somehow missed the shade here, which is called Cavin' In, which is, I think, it's the more glittery sister to Sediment to Be. So yeah, for some reason I missed those two. So I did do a look with both of those shadows and another shadow in my other eyeshadow palette. So I'll mention that shadow palette in a second. But yeah, this was interesting. What also made this difficult is there's so many shadows in this. This is a large palette. I did talk about this in the intro that I will never really use this as a full palette. I do see myself starting to pull stuff out of this eventually, and using them as mini quads or a 6-pan or a 9-pan kind of set, mixing it with some other shadows, because these are all fairly ho-hum. And I actually found the super boring shades hard to use, because it's oh yeah, I gotta remember to use that, because yeah, they're boring, and I don't really need them with this look. Often I'll use a shade like this to sort of blend something like what I'm wearing actually right now, which I did not do. But blending stuff that's a bit deeper, but nothing gets super, I mean, there are deep colors here, but they blend nicely, so it's not needed necessarily. Or setting the eyeshadow primer, which I do sometimes, but I have another eyeshadow in my Pan That palette that I'm using for that, so I didn't really need, so I kind of had to force myself to use those that way. But yeah, I really enjoyed using this stuff along the side. There's not going to be a whole lot of pictures of this palette. That was my other oopsie. This palette was the palette that I wore to work pretty much most days, and most days I also forgot to take photos of it. So the next palette we will have more photos of. Not a whole lot, but more, because yeah, I just kind of forgot about doing photos. One of the challenges is I do like to do photos in daylight, and when I leave for work in the morning, it is dark, and when I get home, it is dark. So hard to take a photo of daylight photos with my eyeshadow looks. The other palette that I was playing with is the Urban Decay Urban Spectrum palette. This palette's actually new to me because it was gifted to me from my friend, but the palette itself is 2016, I want to say. And my one regret with this, actually before I get into that, I did want to mention this. So I saw this on Danny's video. I noticed she had little sticky notes and inside her palettes and stuff. And I was oh, that's such a good idea. So I ended up taping pieces of paper on the inside of my palette and marking when I used certain shadows. So like you can see, what is it? Flatline I used 3 times. Like that was an easy shade to use 3 times. It just made it easier for me to keep track of if I've used a shadow or not, and then again how many times I used it. But yeah, what I was saying is this is new to me. And I do regret not spending as much time on this because I was a bit intimidated by the dark shades. I was like, how am I going to use those? Can I even wear them to work? I had no issues using the purples, although, what was it? Omen. Omen was one that I like didn't get around to using until I was like, why did I skip that one? But yeah, like the bottom half of the palette, or like the bottom 2/3, no problem. 3/5 if I can do my math. The top 2 rows were a little more challenging. This is the shade that I ended up wearing. Again, it was a last minute. I don't know why I left that one because I kept meaning to wear this protest shade, this green shade, with like, I kept meaning to do a look with it, and I just kept skipping it for some reason because it was like, oh, I'm going to do this look. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm rushing to do my makeup, and I just overlooked it. And then same with like, so today I'm wearing the last shades because I, again, didn't get around to using all of them, and I'm like, crap, I've got to use them. And I'm kind of mad at myself because I wish I could have done a look that was more focused on each one of these looks, particularly. So the main color that I'm wearing today is this one, and it is stunning. This one, like Omen, like some of them go on really well. This one was not quite, this one was kind of muddy, but this color is just so pretty. When I put it on, I was like, oh my gosh, like, but again, like I can't really wear this kind of look to work. Like it's too much for my work. I just know it is. And I know it's like just be you, but I already draw enough attention to myself. Sometimes I don't want to make it worse. So like I do miss working from home more often because then I had more time to play with looks like this. And then what's in the crease is this Madness shade. So that was the other one that I had missed in this palette. They were the last 2 shadows in all of these shadows that I had to use. And I regret not using each one individually because Madness, I mean, I haven't really got a true sense of what it's like on its own. How I was using a lot of these darker shades was as liner with the MAC Fix Plus Wedding. That worked really, really well. I'm glad I figured that out because I can use that going forward, and I definitely will be using that with the palettes next month because there's definitely going to be some tricky shades in those palettes as well. Tricky as in like more colorful or just unusual shades for me personally to wear on a regular day-to-day basis. But yeah, this palette, it's definitely, I mean, the quality is definitely declining on this, I can tell. But it's still really pretty. I really enjoyed playing with it. I'm sad I didn't take more time on this one. I'm sad that I kind of, I don't know, I'll be honest, I kind of avoided it a little bit because I'm like, it's a little intimidating, especially the top 2/5. So I'm happy though that I did get a good time playing with this and I have more familiarity with it. It's not going anywhere. Like I'm not decluttering this. There's probably going to be very few palettes that I will end up decluttering after this project. But there could be a couple. I can see there being a couple. So those were my January picks, and those were the palettes that had, like, my January was my biggest month. Like that Stone Cold Fox palette kind of pushed me over the edge. I think I had like 48, what was it? It was a total of 48 shadows. That was my biggest month. So I feel like that's good for me to like that was the hardest probably that I'll have for the rest of the year. Everything else is a little bit less than that, or a lot less than that. So let's get into the February palettes. So the first palette that I picked for February is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. I mean, this feels like an obvious one. It's these beautiful rosy, I feel like this is a very romantic color story. I'm really excited to play with this. I feel like I haven't touched it in a long time. Some of these shades I know I haven't really used. That's the one thing too that I really liked this project for, because I felt like, again, the Stone Cold Fox palette, I'm like, yeah, I'll use all those shades, no problem. And it wasn't until I started marking them, I'm like, oh, I've totally missed stuff. And it's not like I missed them because I didn't want to use them. I just overlooked them. Like, it just didn't occur to me. I was like, oh, I never even used that shade. I'm looking forward to doing that with like this palette because in my head, I've used all of these shades. I don't know if I actually have. Like, I know I've swatched everything, but I don't know if I've used all of these shades on my eyes. I think I have, but I don't know. And it'll just be interesting to see which ones. I know for sure I'm going to be drawn to more like the lighter shades in this palette. I feel like I feel like these two shades are going to be the more, I don't know. I'm looking at them right now and I want to play with them. But this is the thing in my head. I want to play with them, but I get scared with those and think about, no, I can't play with them because I can't wear them to work. So frustrating. So anyway, but I am really excited to play with this one because again, it's been a while since I have used this one, so I'm really excited to play with it. And then the next palette just again feels very fitting for February. It's this Shades of Roses palette from Be Bella Cosmetics. It is a really pretty palette. It's very, very unique in my collection. I really don't have anything like this. There's shades in this palette that are completely different. I don't have any other reds. Like this red, I did do a look on I posted on my Instagram because I was like, you know what, I really want to play with that red. I want to do something very dramatic with it because like I just want to slap it all over my eyelids basically. Like sometimes when you see certain colors, it's like the green in the Rudolph palette, like certain colors, I just want to like slather that all over my eyelids and see what it looks like. It's probably going to look terrible because, you know, I don't have the face for that, but the color yeah, you just want to like paint it on. Oh, why did I say that? That word's now tainted. But yeah, you just want to like douse yourself in that powder on your lids. The challenge with this one as well is there are glitters in this. This is a heavy, heavy glitter. And then some of these shadows here, I haven't swatched them in a while, so I can't remember exactly the texture. I think this one's pretty glittery. This gold one right here. And these two, I haven't done the swatches yet. I'll put the swatches up on the screen so you can see what it looks like. But I know that those are going to be tricky for day to day. Then there's some like regular shades in here. Like, you know, this is just like a regular brown. This is like a regular beige. This is a regular beige and a regular brown. But yeah, like this lavender color is really pretty. This color is like a dark plummy. I'm really like wanting to play with that one. Again, this will be an interesting one to play with, this very bright pink. But if I recall correctly, these ones are a little bit softer. Like I do have like neon pinks, like I have that neon palette, and I think this is a bit softer than that palette. So yeah, this one's going to be more of my challenge type palette to like get creative with, to like push myself out of my comfort zone, to play with it. I know I do enjoy doing that. Like today, like I love this makeup look. But again, it's a lot. Like I'm gonna go to the gym later today, and it's like I'm gonna take this off before I go to the gym because it's probably too much, and it'll be like running down my face too, so it'll look weird. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this anymore, so we probably should wrap this video up. But yeah, I'm enjoying this so far. It ended up being a little more challenging than I had anticipated, which, I mean, granted, it was a big month. So I had 48 shadows to do a No Pan Left Behind, to use at least once. This month, I only have 31. So we definitely have a smaller set to work with, which I think will be a little easier than last month. Although some of those, like again, that glitter, like I'm going to use the glitter once. And like, I don't mind that. I don't mind if I like the rest of the palette and it's just that one glitter that I never use unless I have like, you know, a Halloween look or something that I'm going to use it for. Fine. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't feel wasted. I mean, it would have been nice if it was something else in that palette, but it's not a reason for me to completely declutter a palette just for like one shade I don't like, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to give it a little thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel here in Toronto, Canada. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye.